It's funny actually, like, so the alternative is our like store brand, and I guess that used to be the alternative to the high street. Now it's kind of come full circle because the alternative is the high street as you try and make that survive again because of online shopping and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of flipped.
Absolutely, yeah.
So anyone who says this, that the cutlery industry and the engineering industry in Sheffield are dead, I know they're not.
Welcome to Sheffield and to another episode of the Death of the High Street. Now, I've never been here before. I've never been to Sheffield before, so this is going to be fun. And whilst I'm going to be looking at the state of retail, I'm also going to be delving into the history of steel and the industries that played such a part in the very fabric of the modern world. So yeah, let's go explore Sheffield, the great metropolis of steel. Let's do it. This is going to be fun. So it's a cold day today, but a nice day, a good day for exploring. It's 12:30 on a Wednesday, so who knows what we'll find. Looks like we've got some big regeneration plan going on here. The northern capital of cool, said the Times. 61% green space. And here we go, first big empty building, and look at that, it's a beautiful one. Wow. I reckon that will have been a bank at some point. Now all the windows covered up, and then just one door down, another one there, boarded up on that beautiful building. That's well nice. But this street is nice with loads of open stuff on, going down to the theatres down there. Yeah, so on this nice pedestrianised bit here, loads of work is being done, but boarded up there, big empty one there, another one for let there. Next to it, empty unit there to let. That says now open, but yeah, empty. Yeah, so this said it was a nail bar. There's a notice of application here under the Gambling Act, so I assume that's going to be a bookies coming here soon. I said nice pedestrian bit, there's literally work being done on every single section of that. So yeah, as that sign said before, surrounding Sheffield is the Peak District with its beautiful hills, amazing countryside. Now interestingly, 22 kilometres southeast of Sheffield, some of the earliest remains of human activity in Northern Europe were found there, dating back to the last ice age. Now what was found were arrowheads, knives, bones which had carvings into them, and what's especially interesting is the fact that knives were found there, because it brings me on to talking about cutlery in Sheffield and the industry of cutlery. It's so interesting. When I started doing my research, I had no idea that that was what was going to be so prominent. So yeah, as I go to some places and I hope I come across chimneys, today I want to come across some of the history of cutlery, see what we find. So a tax record from 1297 shows the first mentioning of a cutler. So a cutler was someone that made knives or other sharp-edged tools. And then by the 1300s, the end of the 1300s, there was loads and loads of metal workers recorded here in Sheffield. And then going into the 1400s, it had become the place where arrowheads were made for the military, for military operations. So that theme of providing for war will continue as well as we go forward into the modern world. Look at this here, another one, empty. Hopefully we'll get chatting to some locals as well today, get some local insight into Sheffield and how it's changed. I've honestly got no idea where I'm going, I'm just wandering around, as I always do, to be fair. Bar, restaurant, to let there. So yeah, the topography of Sheffield, with all that hillside around and forests and streams and rivers and an abundance of resources, made it the perfect place for crafting, for making things, getting those resources. But early on they actually realised that the iron ore found nearby wasn't of a good quality, and so they actually outsourced that from, I think it was from the 1700s onwards, they outsourced the iron ore. Look at this building here, all completely boarded up. I wonder what that was. Maybe that was like a bar or something. In 1624, the Cutlers Company was founded. Now, Cutlers were so important round here in Sheffield, and they were actually looked upon to be so important to the town, to the area. The Cutlers Company began acting like a local government, really. It really had that much prominence in society. Now, I've also got this book here, let me just get it out. Yeah, an amazing book this, The Story of Sheffield by Tim Cooper. Such an interesting read, where I got all my information from. But there's this quote where he talks about what it was like as a cutler working back in the day, and let me just read this. The peculiar employment of the cutler. The work was principally done by a master and his apprentice, who not only works together in the shop, but they also live together under the same roof, and the association between them is necessarily more familiar than can exist between the employer and his hired servant. So imagine that's the job you want to do, you go get it, then your boss goes, you got to do the job, but you've also got to live with me. You've got to live with me while we do our work. So funny. But you'll see why, as we move through the evolution of steel, why maybe it was important to keep those around you close, because you might discover something that could literally change the world. And it really did. Just look at that building though. It says there 1795 private lodgings. And right next to it, look at that. 4,500 square foot it's saying. Jeez. So sad seeing giant buildings like that with them beautiful stone pillars just now in it, up for let. And here we go, I've just been talking of Cutlers, and look at this, look what I've come across. So this is the Cutlers Hall. Let's see if we can get inside though, have a little look around the Cutlers Hall.
If you're interested in industrial history, especially of Sheffield,
Wow. So these are the master cutlers?
Yep, so 1624 onwards, as you mentioned downstairs. These are the master cutlers because they change every year. And what we're basically looking at is, not metaphorically but physically, the people who built Sheffield.
Wow.
So if you actually walk around Sheffield a lot, you'll recognise a lot of these names because they did build parks, hospitals, gymnasiums, fountains, all around the city.
Wow.
And they did it for the betterment of Sheffield. So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
didn't do it to better themselves. They
Yeah.
did it to make Sheffield a better place.
Wow. So that's the first one back there, 1624.
Yeah. And we've been going ever since.
And this still goes on, so you've got the last one here, 2022.
Yeah, we're actually 1 year out of date.
1 year out of date, but...
Well, it's a bit of a pig to take these things off the wall.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
Last year's was Dame Julie Kenny, so we do have female master cutlers. Few and far between, because to be on the company of cutlers you have to work in industry, and obviously it wasn't really a trade that many females got into.
Yeah.
But now it's becoming more and more prevalent.
Yeah.
Women are going into heavy engineering industry and rising up to a certain level, which then they sort of pop up on our radar.
Yeah, amazing.
Company and
Brilliant.
try and make Sheffield a bit of a better place.
Wow, yeah.
We call it Silver Vestibule, and it's actually the first class lounge off the RMS Olympic, which was the Titanic sister ship.
Wow.
So all of the wood panelling top and bottom, the main light fitting just there, and we have 5 of these small ones which run down this corridor. We're all the first class lounge.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible.
Well, to put it into perspective, there are 2 other places you can see this. Bottom of the Atlantic and bottom of the Adriatic.
Yeah.
Because that's where the Titanic is, that's where the Britannic is.
Yeah.
So it was these 3 guys.
These 3 guys here.
So Ashley, Tommy,
Joseph, yeah.
Wards.
Wow.
So they were real entrepreneurs. So I believe they owned the first ever tarmacking company in the UK. Because they saw tarmacking as being the future, thought we'll get in on that on the ground floor.
Yeah. And they were right.
Yeah,
they were right.
So obviously during the First World War a lot of horses served the country and died. So there was no horses for the scrap then. So there was a real shortage of the facility to collect and move scrap, and then when it's melted to move the raw materials. So there was a circus in town.
Wow.
These guys went down and watched the show, had a chat with the ringleader and said, what are you doing with the elephant? Because she was no longer fit and healthy enough to do the show, she was going to get put down. So they said, no, we'll buy her. So have a look online, there's some fantastic photos of the elephant.
No way.
Going around Sheffield with a cart on the back.
That is
collecting
amazing.
scrap.
Well, here you go. 2 things then you need to know.
Yeah.
I am the master cutler.
Oh, wow.
I am a cutler. That's what my company makes.
No way.
Less than a mile from here.
Wow.
I go all over the world. All the things on this shelf were made in Sheffield in September last year, within 2 miles.
Wow. That's amazing.
So anyone who says this, that the cutlery industry and the engineering industry in Sheffield are dead, I know they're not.
Yeah.
Pretty much what I exactly just said. The same.
And you're the master cutler.
Yeah.
I am.
Wow.
Until October this
Until
year.
October, then somebody else will take over.
Every year it changes then?
Every year it changes. The master cutler is always a manufacturer, so it's important that we do this. It's important that I'm here.
Yeah.
So I've taken a year out to do it. Well, actually, that's what I'm rushing off to now. But I've got product goes all over the world. It keeps us out of trouble.
Absolutely awesome. Oh, that's so good. Thank you for chatting.
Those bits and pieces there, that's what most people don't realise, is that's all made here now. And that's just a small example, and I could have had any of 20 companies putting stuff in there.
Yeah.
That's just some of the ones. And it's not things that you would think are made now, but they all are.
Amazing.
And that pump down there sealed the channel tunnel, but that's another story.
Brilliant. Thank you. Wow, that was amazing. So, just on the off chance, I walked up to the door and I thought, let's see if I can get in. And I met that lovely chap who showed me around and gave me a full tour of the place, that absolutely stunning building. And then we bumped into the current cutler as well, which was so cool. And they were saying as well how Sheffield still has this innovation, which was amazing to hear about and to see. So in contrast to some of the retail that I'll be showing you today, we've got that great story of how industry still is alive. But I do need to go back a bit because I still need to run through the evolution of steel. Nice little shopping area down here, just the one closed. But yeah, this is nice in here. Just noticed down here as well, there's a little restaurant, bar to let down there. So yeah, the evolution of steel from this city and how it really did change the world. Yeah, so Benjamin Huntsman, fella in the 1700s. Now he was a clockmaker and he was also a really good chemist. And what he wanted to find a way to make small parts for watches, like springs, metal parts. He wanted to find a way to make them quicker but also stronger. And he realised that if you raise the temperature of the place where you're melting that iron, and he did this, he figured a way to melt the steel at such high temperatures of 1500 degrees and above that it became the perfect malleable material for the coming demands of the Industrial Revolution. So he really pioneered it, and it was called crucible steel. So within 50 years of him coming across this way of making crucible steel, 90% of Britain's steel came from Sheffield, and also 50% of Europe's steel came from here in Sheffield. That's how dominant it was. So another big breakthrough in the 1700s as well was from a fella called Thomas Bolsover. Now he realised that you could fuse copper and silver together to create a product that looked like pure silver, but it wasn't. It was just a blend. Now that became so useful for making what looked like high-end luxury goods, but it was really just that plated silver, really. Much like this chain that I'm wearing here. Do you know what I mean? It looks like it's pure silver, but it's not. It's just something fused with a bit of silver. Now he came across that. So much stuff, candlesticks, plates, all this fancy jewellery that looked high-end, but it was now cheap to make, came from here in Sheffield. And look at this place here. I reckon this was a pub. All boarded up, sad to see. Oh, actually, it looks like it might have been a tattoo store. Another big one here just next to it, but that does say under offer, which is good. So hopefully something coming to this one, eh? So the invention of crucible steel was taking over. It really was. It became the go-to product all around the world. But the issue was the time it took to make it. It took around 2 weeks for the full process, until a fella called Henry Bessemer came along. And if Huntsman changed the world before, this was really going to create the boom that built Sheffield. You know, I absolutely love a Guinness. And I absolutely love this Guinness artwork on the wall there. That's ace. It's made me want a Guinness. So I'm going to have one. I got the train here today, so let's do it. Let's go get a Guinness and talk about Henry Bessemer. There we go. Yeah, so Henry Bessemer, he heated the process up even more. So Huntsman, he'd got it to around 1500 degrees. Henry Bessemer doubled that with a process of blowing air through molten pig iron. And yeah, this was called the Bessemer process. So crucible steel used to take around 2 weeks, a bit longer to make. This new Bessemer process cut that time down to just half an hour. Yeah, it was just 30 minutes. That was the time that it took to make this brilliant new steel. And just like anything, you speed up a process that fast, growth is just going to boom all around you, isn't it? And it was needed because what was coming soon? Wars, a lot of them. And Sheffield provided the steel for all of them. Got another corner unit here that looks empty. And across the way as well. Wonder what this was. This here looks like a really good street though. Loads of independents on here. Seems nice. Nice shop there. Ooh, them t-shirts look nice.
Yeah, so we've been here like 31 years. Yeah, this location for like 20, I think. And then a location just in the Forum, which is like a collection of shops just here.
Amazing.
Before that. So my colleague Stu set it up in 1992. 92? Yeah, so this is all our own brand. Some of it's like Sheffield based, like the
Yeah, I saw that there, that lovely.
South York's here.
Cool.
Cheftree.
So that's like
Really
South York.
city.
And you design all this yourself, yeah?
Yeah, so I haven't done it all, like some people previous to me have
Yeah.
done stuff like the Cheftree, the North Arrow. So we've sort of got 3 brands, I guess, in a sense. Your Northern Proud stuff, which is like celebrating the North, celebrating Sheffield.
Yeah.
Some of it's like an ode to Chef, some of it's an ode to like bits of Sheffield, or it's a bit like the tenacity of the North.
I like it.
To the climbing scene in Sheffield.
So have you got online as well, presents?
Yeah, we do online. I do the online stuff.
Cool.
Obviously, as a small business, it's not always easy. It's funny actually. Like, so the alternative is our like store brand, and I guess that used to mean the alternative to the high street, sort of back when we were founded in the 90s. Because you had a lot of sort of big stores on the high streets. In-person shopping was a lot bigger. Now it's kind of come full circle because the alternative is the high street as you try and make that survive again because of online shopping and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of flipped.
Absolutely,
now,
yeah.
Which is weird when you think about it, but quite cool.
Absolutely, and this is the stuff that should remain and probably will remain. Like, as you see, some of the giant buildings that are kind of left empty.
Yeah.
Who's going to take over them? Like, yeah. So a massive shout out to these guys, the Alternative Store. Just got myself a lovely t-shirt in there. Had a great chat with the guy. So yeah, that was ace. Ended up in that shop. I thought I'll check it out independent. Guy had such a cool story, and as he was saying, he was like, it's called the Alternative Store, and it started out as that alternative to the high street, and now looking at the high street, a lot of the high street's dying, and what's still there? This great independent shop. So I'm going to link them in, the Alternative Store. I'll put the website. Really nice guys, great quality stuff, all designed by that fella. Yeah, ace. So now we have this super quick way of creating steel with the Bessemer process. But what do you need to get that steel? You need fire. What does fire need? Fire needs coal. Coal comes from mines, and mines come from people. So employment was around here. South Yorkshire was full of employment back then, the end of the 1800s. South Yorkshire was really, really famous for those mines. And there's an interesting quote from the book as well. I'll just read this one, talking about someone's visit to Sheffield in the 1800s. Sheffield, with the exception of Leeds, is the largest and most important town of Yorkshire. It is also, beyond all question, the blackest, the dirtiest and the least agreeable. It is indeed impossible to walk through the streets without suffering from the dense clouds of smoke constantly pouring from great open furnaces in and around the town. There are, however, a number of persons who think the smoke healthy. So yeah, hard to imagine how different 150 years ago this place was to how I'm looking at it today wandering around. But yeah, I love reading quotes from people who visited places back then. I wonder if anyone will quote me in 150 years time. This is what the Wandering Turnip said when he visited in 2023. So yeah, I've got a whole row of things here. Looks all boarded up on this section. Look at that. We sell previously enjoyed artefacts that will delight your eyes and ears. My kind of shop, that. Shame that's gone. Fully fitted Turkish spa and baths to let. What? That'd be a tough one to take on, wouldn't it? Look at that. Old architecture. New architecture. Which do you prefer? I actually do quite like that. It's pretty mad. So where were we up to with the history of steel? Oh yeah, so then there were a fella called Carl Wilhelm Siemens. So yeah, this German fella, Carl, he found a way that wasn't as quick as the Bessemer process. But what you could do with his process was analyse the steel and modify it during heating, which just opened up loads more doors for the production of steel as well. So we had all this innovation. So we got a pub up there. What's that? The Wick at both ends. To be fair, that might be getting renovated. Looks like there's some work going on there, so that's good. Might not be shut for good. Then there were a fella called Harry Braley, who he'd begun working in the steelworks at the age of 12. His dad had worked in the steelworks, so it was going to get passed down through family tradition, but he wanted to find a way to stop erosion in gun barrels. So what he realised was that if you added chromium to the steel, it would make a material that was resistant to corrosion. Now, he first called this rustless steel, but that name didn't really catch on, and people thought there was a much better sounding name for this type of steel. You know it, I know it, and it's stainless steel. Look at this. Big old derelict building there. It says on the top, church development opportunity. You can just see through there, it looks like there's been a fire. Like a lot of the industries that built this country, it didn't come without its dangers. And I'll just read you this little bit from the book. Yeah, so it says here, the greatest dangers was from grinders' asthma caused by long hours spent crouched over the wheels, inhaling dust produced from metal and stone. The dry grinders' average life is hardly 35 years, and the wet grinders rarely exceed 45. I have never been to a city before with so much redevelopment work going on. Everywhere I go. It's proper hard to just explore anywhere because it's all like this. I'm sure it's really good for the city. I'm sure it's doing amazing things. This is what you want. Money being spent on the city. But it makes it fucking hard to cross the road. Just want to be over there. I don't know how to get there. And more there going all the way down there. What we got here as well, another one shut here. Now this place says it should be open, but it's not. I'm assuming that's shut down. Another one to let there. Another one to let there. And I've just seen in the distance, well, what looks like it could be a massive chimney. So let's go have a look. Let's see how far it is. Get a bit of a stomp on before the sun goes down. I reckon I've got, maybe an hour before it goes dark. Let's see if we can get there. Offices to let as well there. Loads, you see that everywhere. It's not just retail units, it's offices as well in town centres and cities. So then came the wars, and the Crimean War. That was fuelled with steel from Sheffield. And then the First World War. Now in 1915, 25,000 tonnes of steel was leaving Sheffield each week for use by Allied forces. Look at these. These are really cool. Wow, look at that. I wouldn't mind living there. Looks like a nice house, got its big chimney on an island. All them commercial spaces for rent. Yeah, so war creates industry, war creates demand. Everyone was in work then, producing this steel. But then the war ended, and then came the Depression, the Great Depression of the 1920s going into the 30s. And a lot of unemployment filled these areas. What happens when the steel's not being produced? That means that the mines don't need as many workers getting coal. So just industry after industry was facing this mass employment around here. Things picked up again, but it was because of another war. The Second World War arrived. Yeah, Sheffield found its place again to keep the great machine of war moving. And then following the Second World War, the 50s and the 60s, industry really continued to grow in Sheffield. It was really prosperous, and people thought that just wasn't going to stop. So probably from the mid-1800s to the 1970s was Sheffield's gold rush. But then ultimately, the demand for steel just started to dry up. Manufacturers started to look for cheaper alternatives to using products, and also the oil crisis of the 1970s just suddenly hindered everything, and it also exposed Sheffield's weakness, which was it can produce all this stuff but only in the right conditions, and brought on Sheffield's collapse of steel, of giant manufacture of steel, should I say, as we saw earlier with that great tour, that it does still exist. And look up there, you can just see the top of it. It's in that mill complex. Hopefully I'll be able to get in. Cool as well there. Alfred Beckett and Sons Steel Saw and File Works. There we go. Look at that. I absolutely love these ones that you can just get. Oh, that you can just get right up to and just touch the base of it. And they've incorporated this, I'm guessing this is flats, housing all around it, but they've kept it there. And I like that. I like that the history is still on show. Just look how big that is. So yeah, then there were numerous redevelopment plans for Sheffield. An airport, city airport, was opened in 1994. That only lasted 8 years before it shut down. Then at the Hadfield steelworks site, that obviously got redeveloped as Meadow Hall, a giant out-of-town shopping centre. And then there were loads of plans for regeneration of the city, which all got pulled after the financial crash in 2008. So again, just bad luck happening. But this is interesting because this here looks like, yeah, look at this. So I'm guessing that was the old mill site there, and that will have been one of the kilns where the steel will have been heated up to them super high temperatures and melted down. And look at that, just standing. I wonder if they're preserving that. Oh, I wish I could get a bit closer, that's ace. Yeah, look at this, just through here you can see the cementation furnace. And look at it, just left behind all that. Oh, this is what I'm talking about, where places need to celebrate the history. Celebrate that should be on show. I know it might only be me in the country. Actually, no, I know loads of you like them as well, but are interested in this stuff. But I want to be able to come to that, have a little wander around it, go inside, instead of just standing here. It might be knocked down in a month or two. Nah, I'm gonna get inside. If they're knocking it down, I'm gonna have a little look. Look at this. Making our way through some proper bloody... Fucking hell, being attacked. Yes, you got down there where all the fuel would go. Then up into that. There's the kiln area. Ace that. Shame I got attacked by a load of plants. But yeah, that was good to see. Then all around it, look at all this. Just boarded up building after boarded up building. There's my lovely furnace from another angle. Beautiful. So my guess is for all of that, that's probably all going to be demolished, I can only assume. And all that land there, it'll probably be housing. Maybe it's affordable housing, but probably that affordable housing that no one can afford. Yeah, look up there. Demolition pending. I like this, the engineering centre here, University of Sheffield. The forge, remembering those forges that created all the steel. So that stamp mark on a product, made in Sheffield, really did mean that this was the finest quality product around. And I was thinking that, well, that industry's all died now, but that wasn't the case at all, because we got to go into that place and meet the current cutler. It was so cool. So Sheffield, yeah, what an amazing day. Retail, yeah, sure, there's a fair amount to let. There's a bit boarded up, and there's loads of them buildings that are for demolition, so that'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I'm guessing it's going to be housing. And also keep an eye out, this Made in Britain series that I'm starting soon, it is going to be coming. I've got some great episodes lined up for you. It's going to be really, really good. So yeah, Made in Britain coming soon. So I'm going to finish with this poem called Made in Sheffield. Now, I was blown away by how nice everyone I came across in Sheffield was, how open they were to show me around, to tell the stories, and I've never been to a place where so much redevelopment does look like it's happening. Like everywhere there seemed to be work going on, so it's going to be amazing to revisit at some point. So yeah, this is Made in Sheffield. 40 years forging steel, cut to size, heat treat, shot blast, powder coat, final grind. There's nothing won't bend under his hands. Even the relentless, cold, hard weight of steel can be coaxed, shaped and formed with warmth, tools and skill. He'll adapt, has to or he'll break. May as well have letters tattooed down his arm, like the hallmark in a knife blade. Made in Sheffield.